To make these crochet shorts, you're going to need a few different materials. The first is the yarn. I'm using the 100% acrylic big twist yarn from Joann Fabrics. You'll need a pair of scissors, a darning needle, two stitch markers, and a crochet hook that works with the size and weight of your yarn. So the packaging says that I needed a 5mm crochet hook. That's what I'm going to use. And this part is optional, but you can use as many colors or as few colors as you want in your shorts. Since I'm doing the tutorial and I'm showing how to make it, I feel like it might get a little confusing seeing me switch back and forth between colors. So I'm gonna make my shorts completely gray, but if you wanna do an all over stripe, you just need to alternate between two or more colors. You can do a mostly solid short that has like a contrast waist tie or trim along the waistband. You could also do athletic stripes and do like two different color stripes right underneath the waistband and at the leg line. I've seen so many different designs with these basic shorts, and all of them are really cute. So you can be as creative as you want to be. I'm going to talk about the instructions a little bit before I start getting into actually doing the instructions. So the two main stitches that you'll be doing is the single crochet stitch and the double crochet stitch. The waistband is done doing the single crochet stitch, but working into the back loop only. And then the body of the shorts is the double crochet stitch. So once you have this basic pattern down, it's not a super difficult project. It doesn't even take a lot of time, just like a few hours. You can actually switch to another stitch. So I think the waistband is probably always going to be the single crochet. But if you wanted to do like the granny stitch for the shorts part, you can just use the same technique and you'll be able to create it with just a completely different stitch pattern. So if you're willing to learn how to do that, let's get started. To start, I'm going to make a chain that is the height that I want my ribbing to be. So I've made these shorts before. I'm going to start by doing 10 chains. This is how tall I want my ribbing to be. And I'm going to do the single crochet stitch on these next couple rows. So I'm going to chain one for height, and then skipping that first chain that I just did, I'm going to do a single crochet into that next chain space, and then continue to single crochet across this row. I'm at the end of the row. I'm going to chain one and then flip my work. And I'm going to single crochet across this row, but only working into the back loop. I'm at the end of the row. I'm going to chain one and then flip my work. At this point, you're going to continue to make single crochet rows, only working into the back loop until your ribbing is wide enough to fit around your lower waist. If you want your shorts to be more high rise, then you would make the ribbing wide enough to fit around your natural waist. I'm going to come back when my ribbing is the length that I need it to be. At this point, my waistline ribbing is wide enough to fit around the lower part of my stomach. I have 113 rows total. So my next step would be to join one side of the ribbing to the other. So if you match them up, you can slip stitch across this top edge here, making sure that you go through both pieces and join it together. So this is how that join is going to look. Then I'm going to yarn over, chain one, yarn over, chain two. So now I'm going to start working the body of the shorts. I'm going to do double crochet stitches upwards. So In order to do that, you're going to do 2 double crochet stitches in between each of the raised parts, the imitation ribbing. So you see how there's one raised edge here and then one here. You're going to do 2 double crochet stitches in between those two. So I'm going to do 1 double crochet. I'm just going to fit it along this top edge, and then a second. I'm going to do 2 in between this area. This is 1. This will make 2. I'm going to do another one here. This is 1. And then 2. So this is how it's looking with 2 in between each raised part. The reason you need to do 2 between each ribbing is that if you do more, say you do 3 in between each one, it's going to make your piece, your ribbing, stretch out too much. So right now, this fits perfectly around your waist, how it stretches. If you have 3 along this edge, it's going to stretch too much this way. If you do 1 in between each raised edge, it's going to tighten it up so it won't actually fit anymore. You want to make sure that you stay consistent by doing the 2 in between each ribbing part. But I'm going to continue to work around this top edge, and I'm going to come back when I get to the beginning of the stitches. So I'm at the end of the row. I'm going to finish it by doing 1 last double crochet. And then I'm going to slip stitch into that first double crochet stitch that I did. Okay, so that allows me to start crocheting in the round. I'm going to yarn over chain 1, yarn over chain 2, and then flip my work. So for this next row, I'm going to increase at what would be my side seams. In order to find those side seams, you're going to take your piece and fold it in half. Okay, so this is the center back, this is the center front. I'm gonna fold it in half again, and then the stitch that is right at that fold, I'm gonna put a stitch marker in. And then you're going to do a stitch marker on the other side as well, which you could just fold this way and then mark this one. But I wanna make sure that I'm placing my stitch marker on the exact same stitch on either side. So I'm actually just gonna count to make sure. I added my second stitch marker to this one. So now I need to reflip my work. And I'm going to double crochet across this edge here. But when I get to where my stitch marker is, I'm going to do an increase stitch. So I'm at my first stitch marker. I'm going to increase by doing 2 double crochets into that same space. This is 1, and this makes 2. And then I'm going to continue to double crochet around until I get to the next stitch marker. I reach my second stitch marker. I'm going to do an increase by doing 2 double crochet stitches into that same space. And then I'm going to continue to double crochet until I reach the end of the row. I'm at my last stitch. I'm going to do 1 more double crochet, and then I'm going to slip stitch into that first double crochet stitch. chain 2, and then flip my work. So that was the first increase row. And before you go into the next row, you need to move your stitch markers up. So on this one here, this is the stitch marker that's on the right of my shorts. I'm going to move this up to the first stitch in my increase. So I was crocheting this way. This is the first stitch that I did. This is the second to make that increase. I'm going to move my stitch marker here. On the opposite side, I'm going to move my stitch marker to the second stitch of my increase. So if I was crocheting around this direction, this is the first stitch that I came to. This is the second one that I did. I'm going to move it to the second. Okay. So when I get to doing my next row of increases, this is the stitch that I'm going to do my increase on, not the first one. So I'm going to reinsert my crochet hook. And this next row, I'm not going to increase. I'm going to do a stable row. So I'm just going to work double crochet stitches around this row until I get to the very end without increasing or decreasing. At this point, you're going to be trying, even though it's not much to work with at this point, you're going to be trying on your shorts like every few rows. And when you have this top part where you want your waistband to hit, you need to see like how your body is shaped moving downwards towards like where your butt is. If you're very curvy, you can do, let's say, 4 rows of increases. So I'm going to do alternating increase and stable rows. So this was the increase, the next one stable, the next one's increase, next one stable. You can do more increases to accommodate that extra coverage that you're going to need. But if you're not super curvy, you only need to do about 2 or 3 increases. I'm going to do 3 total, and I'm going to come back when I'm at that point. I just finished my last increase row. I did 3 increase rows total. So as I said before, the first row was stable, increase, stable, increase, stable, increase. And at this point, I feel like this bottom row here is wide enough and stretchy enough that it fits over the widest part of my hips or my butt without any issue. So I'm not going to increase anymore. I'm okay with it as is. For this next part, I'm only going to do stable rows, and I'm going to do the number of stable rows it takes for me to get this bottom row to reach right above where my crotch ends. So I think it's going to be about 6 or 7 rows total. When I come back, I can tell you the actual number, but you're just going to continue to work your piece up until it reaches right above that point. But I'm going to come back when I'm done. I'm at the end of this row. I'm going to finish it off with one last double crochet stitch. And then I'm going to slip stitch into that first double crochet. I'm just going to pull my yarn through a little bit just so it won't unravel. I finished my last stable row. So I ended up doing 8 total, meaning that after I did that third increase on the side seam, I did 8 more rows where I didn't increase or decrease. So the reason why I did 8 specifically is because when I try the shorts on at this point, the center front of the shorts ends like right above where my crotch ends. It's not exact, it's just a little above it. So you might need to do more or less than 8. It kind of just depends on your measurements, but you want your shorts to fit like how I have them in the image. So the next step would be to make a chain that is going to connect the center back of your shorts to the center front. And you want this chain to be a comfortable length. So I'm going to start out by doing 16. However, it's up to you how you want your shorts to fit. You don't want your chain to be so short that when you connect it to the front, that your shorts are kind of pulling down in the back because the chain isn't long enough to keep the waistline where it was. You also don't want the chain to be so long that your center front is rising up or your center back is rising up and creating more of a high-waisted short. You just want the chain to like fit pretty snugly underneath where your crotch area is. So I'm going to start by doing those 16 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And then you're going to find your center front stitch. In order to do that, you're going to fold your shorts in half. You're going to have the center back on one side, And then you're going to count the number of stitches until you get to that center front. So this stitch right here is my center front stitch. I'm going to try not to lose it. I'm going to slip stitch my chain to that center front stitch. So there it is. And you want to make sure your chain isn't twisted, and mine is, of course. Then you'll yarn over, and you can cut your yarn and pull it all the way through. I already cut mine. So now I have two openings, which will be the left and right leg holes of the shorts. The next step would be to reattach your yarn at the center of this chain space. You want to make sure you try your shorts on first just to be safe. But once you get that fit perfect, you'll reattach your yarn to the center here on one side of the chain. You don't want to be going through both sides of it. You just need to attach it to one side. And then you're going to double crochet this way and across this leg opening. And then you'll continue to work around until the shorts are the length you want them to be. You're going to reattach your yarn at that same stitch you did on the other side, and then you're going to double crochet around this side. You're going to make your leg lines the same length, of course. You'll just make as many rows as you want the shorts to be. So I'm going to start by reattaching here. So I'm going to yarn over with my working yarn, pull through. I'm going to take my short piece, yarn over, pull it all the way through, reinsert my crochet hook into that loop I just created, yarn over, chain one, yarn over, chain two. So now I'm going to do one double crochet into each chain stitch. When you get to that corner here where the chain connects to the body of the shorts, you just want to make sure that you're going into every double crochet stitch that you can, because you don't want to have a weird hole or opening. So I'm going to do one here and then continue around. I'm back at the start of my row. I'm going to finish it off by doing a slip stitch into that first double crochet stitch. I'm going to chain two, flip my work, and then I'm going to double crochet it back across this row. I'm going to continue to do these double crochet legs until the shorts are the length that I want them to be. I'm not going to increase or decrease at any point in the legs. I want them to be completely straight. However, if you want your leg lines to be wider, you can do one increase stitch at the side seam again, and you'll do it on the same stitch on both of the legs because you want it to be symmetrical. So this is how long I wanted my shorts to be. It's 5 double crochet rows total. And when I lay my shorts flat, this is how they look. So my shorts are going to be pretty short. I'm going to reattach my yarn to that point where I reattached it for this side. So this was the working yarn here. I already did the magic knot to join it to my working yarn. I'm going to insert my crochet hook here as close to this yarn as possible. I'm going to try and fit it into this little space here. Yarn over, chain 1, chain 2. All right, so now I have my 2 chains to start. I'm going to be working this way around this leg opening, and I'm going to start by doing double crochet stitches. I'm at the end of this row, so I'm going to finish it by slip stitching into that first double crochet. Then I'm going to chain 2, flip my work, and I'm going to continue to work these double crochet rows until I have 5 rows total to match the other leg. I'm at the end of this 5th row. I'm going to finish it out by slip stitching into that first stitch, and then yarn over, pull all the way through, and I can cut my yarn at this point. Okay, so now my shorts are pretty much done. This is how they look. Yeah, so they are really, really short. And the next thing I would do, I'm going to do this part off camera because it's the same every time, but I'm going to use my darning needle to tuck all of my loose ends. So I have one here. I have a few down here as well. And since my shorts are one color, it's pretty easy to tuck them in. You just tuck them into the row that is closest to it. But I'm going to cut to some images of the shorts now. That's the end of this tutorial. Thanks for watching to the very end. I really appreciate it. If anything wasn't super clear, you can comment below and I'll try to get back to you. But please like, subscribe, share, comment, all that. Thanks.